voices in the blackest night, spitting tales of emerald light. Myron and Phil with the banter tight, lantern stories taking flight. Heroes clad in emerald light, cosmic battles in the dark of night. Guardians calling from the galactic height, power rings are shining bright. Tune in for the mighty lore, legends that you can't ignore. From Mogo to Sinestro's war, the podcast of Void gives you more.
Hey, Green Lantern fans, welcome back to the podcast of OA. This is episode number 261. I'm your co-host, Myron Rumsey, and I am joined by my friend on the other end, Mr. Phil Bova. Phil, my friend, how's life treating you?
It's good. It's good. Enjoying the summer, waiting to go back to work in a few weeks. So,
Good, good.
you know, it is
Uh,
what it is. Spending time with the little man.
I've had quite the last month.
Yeah.
We seems like we no sooner got done recording our GL June and got it published out there. I had an accident at work, and I fell in a parking lot face first and broke my nose. Face was all cut up and bruised up, and that's why we haven't recorded because I looked like I was auditioning for a horror film as a victim. Uh, I'll for those that aren't too squeamish, I'm gonna throw a picture up of what I looked like after I fell. It was pretty ugly, but I hit my head and I ended up passing out after about 10 minutes. So they called the ambulance because of the stroke I had and all the blood thinners I was on. I was literally a bloody mess. So they took me to the ER and did a brain scan. They didn't find anything, uh, but no brain injury, so that was all good. But it took me a little while to heal and try to get things back. Nose is still a little miscolored, and but I broke it. So I said to my wife while I was in the ER, this is only the first half of 2025. Let's see what the second half is going to be like.
Poor
But
guy, man. Just bad luck, right?
yeah, they say everything comes in threes. It's funny. I got back to work after I was off for a day, and people left like a big roll of bubble wrap on my desk and a crash helmet and stuff. So I'm tempted to make a bubble wrap suit just to keep myself cocooned. But I don't know what's next. I'm hoping it just ends in twos. Let's just say that. But it wasn't my intent. I actually thought about recording while I was looking like I did. I thought, well, I could use a filter and put a mask over my face or something, or use an avatar. But I just thought, no, let's not do it. People deserve better than
Hey,
that.
you know what would have covered it really well is Kyle Rayner's clunky mask.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I broke my glasses, so I've got my old glasses on, so I can't see very well because it's a prescription old. I've got to get to the eye doctor and get a new prescription because I was due anyway. But a lot of stuff to talk about in this episode. We're going to get caught up with the main Green Lantern series. So we're going to talk Green Lantern 22, 23, and 24, excuse me, which leads us into the Starbreaker supremacy. And there's a lot going on in these two issues. Plus, somebody, and it ain't me, got to see Superman already. So we were talking about some Superman stuff here too. And Guy Gardner's role in the movie and those kind of things. It'll be spoiler free. It'll be spoiler free. Green Lantern news, there's been a lot, obviously, of Guy Gardner related merchandise tied to the Superman movie. There hasn't been a whole lot more other than they are casting or have casted, or they're in the process of casting, I'm not sure which, Hal Jordan's parents for the Lanterns TV show. So we're going to obviously get some flashback to see maybe a retelling of Hal's origin and flashback of some sort, which is kind of exciting. I'm sure it'll be used in his death scene just before he dies at the end of the first season. And flashbacks. He sees his life flash before his eyes.
Right.
But
It'll be some trope just to give a backstory.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've been
And
having some fun with the whole thing. In fact, I'll throw an image up here. I have a world premiere of a picture of Kyle Chandler in the Green Lantern uniform. So I'll throw that up here. AI is wonderful
you're gonna love
sometimes.
that one, fans.
AI is wonderful sometimes. I tried doing AI to create a picture of Cal Chandler as Sinestro and Ulrich Thompson as Sinestro, Kyle Chandler's as Hal, wearing uniforms, fighting with canes. And they kind of got it, but it was a little off. You know how AI can get sometimes.
Mhm.
So I didn't finish that one up, but I had a little bit of fun with Cal Chandler and his walker. Another show news for those that follow along with us on Reddit, we had a number of episodes get deleted recently. A overzealous moderator decided to delete some of my episode postings without even giving me the courtesy of telling me why. Um, the moderator is no longer a moderator on the Green Lantern subreddit. And
Nope, he's gone.
nope,
Bye.
he is gone. He apparently has caused other issues, but he's an anti-Hal Jordan poster. So I believe he was, and this is conjecture on my part. I believe he was looking at me because I'm very pro Hal Jordan and was deleting some of my content. And he was deleting other people's comments too that he disagreed with, according to what we've heard.
Right.
So,
Big shout out to Arian Zero on Reddit.
yep,
He was the one who brought it to my attention, and then I brought it to yours. And he's the one who went through with it, man, and helped get this person removed.
yep.
So,
I reached out to the moderators, the other moderators, and said, hey, you and I are both approved content creators on Reddit. We've been posting things for years. Why all of a sudden our most recent episodes being deleted off of the subreddit? Not anywhere I cross posted it. And I really was approaching it from the perspective that if I'm violating a rule, I want to know so I can
right.
correct that because I want the
Mhm.
content to be available in every avenue we can. I mean, I post to Reddit, I post to Instagram, I post to X, I post to Facebook, I post to Blue Sky, wherever I can try to get out there and get the content out there so that people that don't know the show exists can find the content, right? And so I wanted to know if I had been violating some rule that I wasn't aware of. And I know I hadn't been posting as myself very much on Reddit since my stroke, just because of time and the typing skills, but I've been starting to get more involved. So I wasn't sure if it was just because maybe I hadn't posted or whatever, but needless to say, it's been resolved and those posts have been restored, which is nice. And I want to thank the other moderators in the Green Lantern subreddit for taking care of it for me and
Mhm.
for being very kind to me about it. That was great. But the other guy, he's no longer he can still post, but he's not a moderator on that subreddit anymore. So a little bit of drama, but I don't think anybody even noticed other than the one person who pointed it out to you. Uh,
Yeah, it was really cool of him to really notice it. I mean, maybe I don't know if he went back and checked something or whatnot, but that was really cool.
yeah, it was weird. And it was only like the last three episodes, which I thought was really odd.
People be
Whatever.
people.
Yeah, yeah, right.
And stuff doesn't surprise me this day on the internet. I mean, anything, you know. It's almost like been a tiptoe event leading up to the Superman movie. It's like everybody's tiptoeing up to it.
Yeah, no,
Worried about what's going to happen.
everybody's afraid about what's going to get posted and so on, and in terms of spoilers and stuff like that. And thankfully, there hasn't been a lot. I think there's been a few things, but I've been really avoiding it because I'm not lucky enough to have been able to have seen it earlier. I think I was telling you off mic, I would have had to have driven over 100 miles each direction to see it early. And while I'm interested in seeing the movie, I'm not that interested in seeing the movie. But
Well, it was good. I'll put it that way.
so why don't we jump right into it? So
All
this
right.
will be a spoiler-free conversation. You've
Well,
obviously seen the film. I have not seen the film. I'm not worried about being spoiled myself, but I want to make sure we don't spoil anything for our listeners and viewers for whom that is a concern. But and obviously you're coming off the I've just seen the movie, Euphoria that comes with seeing a new film. But overall, I know you told me last night after you got done seeing it that you really enjoyed it and that it really captured the essence of Superman. And it was probably the first time since the Chris Reeve Superman when you saw it when you were 4 years old that you felt the
mhm.
same way coming out of
well,
a superhero film.
and it's like how many different Clark Kents and Superman have we had since 1978, right? And each one has brought something to the table, don't get me wrong. And I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
saying everyone's better than the other one. Everyone's got their own personal opinion on who's the best. And I'm not going to sit here and debate on who's the best. But in a relatable context, I don't remember what my feelings were when I was 4 or 5 years old when I saw that. So I just kind of remember being there. It was like, oh my gosh, it was bright, it was big, and it's Christopher Reeve. I didn't know anything about the guy because I'm 4, 5. But I kind of related to Man of Steel. I liked Man of Steel, but I didn't get Henry Cavill. I didn't for some reason there was something about those films that kept on having me pull back. It didn't feel right. It was good. I liked them and I enjoyed seeing them, but I didn't draw that kind of personal connection to any of the content. I mean, but when I saw this, and I saw leading up to this and I saw these feelings and everything coming up to it, it kind of made me feel like it was back in 1978. And it kind of had that nostalgic kind of Superman tone to it, and I think Gunn really, really, really tapped into that really, really well with Corn Sweat and his ability to act as both Superman and Clark. So the first thing I noticed was, your overtures, you don't have your usual soundtrack that comes with Gunn. So he likes to throw music in there.
Hmm.
And knowing that it wasn't going to be that way about this one, he actually used a film score. It was number one awesome to hear John Williams stuff again. Even though it was Joe Murphy or John Murphy that did this one, but it still had the essence of John Williams, which I think still embodies what it is as Superman, right? And Man of Steel kind of diverged from that, so it kind of brought a different scope to it. And it's weird because now I think about Henry Cavill and that whole universe as being like an Elseworlds kind of thing. And this one, it's like the actual universe that starts. That being said, you know, I didn't take my eyes off the screen. I mean, every moment I was just attached to, his quirks, how he acted, the humorous tones that were thrown in there. And I'll say this to any Green Lantern fan out there, if somebody comes away from this and thinks that Guy Gardner is ridiculous, you don't know Guy Gardner and you don't know Green Lantern because that dude nailed that role. And you and I have read Guy Gardner over the years, and I'm
Hmm.
sure you're going to go into it as an abject fan, just like me. He's not my favorite, but I've always liked him.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, it's going to be cool to see an arrogance that never really existed in any of the DC stuff, a different kind of arrogance, right?
Right. I
And
mean, you saw like
Nathan,
in Young Justice, you saw a little bit where Guy Gardner
right,
was doing some stuff there that was very much in character. He in the
right.
Green Lantern the animated series, he was very much in character. I think I asked you a question very pointedly because my concern going into it was that you're going to have a mid 50-year-old actor. Is he playing the 30-year-old version of Guy Gardner, or is he playing a 50-year-old version of Guy Gardner? Because
And
guys
he
evolved,
delivered
right?
it that way. Yeah. And I think he delivered it really well. Um, kind of like what I harken back to. We just got off Green Lantern Recharge, and there was that scene in there where Gardner was was outside the screen and he was mooning Batman, right?
Mhm.
And it almost felt like that what it could have been a scene in this movie because of
Gotcha.
his humor. I mean, it's just that's how it was. And Nathan Fillion, man, he gave it. I will say, outside of Superman being my favorite, Mr. Terrific and Guy Gardner were my absolute favorites in this movie. Both those guys and both those actors nailed those roles. I mean, Corn Sweat was just, he was beautiful. I mean, he was just a great Superman. I mean, both Superman and Clark Kent, and he nailed them both perfectly. The ensemble cast that went with it, I mean, that all fit well. It was nice to see guys like that Steve Lombardi, that real degenerate reporter that always hung around the Daily Planet, and he was just crude and
Yeah.
obnoxious. Yeah, he was in there. I mean, it was good to see characters like that. Jimmy Olsen, the guy who played him was great, and Crypto. I mean, you can't go wrong with Crypto, you know. But no spoilers. I will say there's two credit scenes. I wouldn't say that they. Well, I'll say this: they don't sit here and allude to like this big broad universe. Like, there's no dark side shows up. I mean, that's not a spoiler, but like, Gunn didn't do that with this. But I will say that it's worth it to stay to the end because you're already there for the whole movie. You might
They,
as well
they
wait.
they didn't have Snapper Carr show up and saying putting together a
No,
team or anything like that,
no,
right?
none of that. Kaylee Collins didn't show up or anything like that and fight against the immigrant story. But no, I mean, if you're gonna stay for the movie, stay for the credit scenes. They're worth it. They go with the movie. Um, let's see, what else can I say? I mean, it's just, I mean, it was a crowded theater. And I text you this, but I mean, there was a lot of people wearing Superman stuff. I mean, a lot more than I originally thought was going to be.
Good. I think,
You know,
we were talking, you were talking about Henry Cavill versus Corn Sweat, and they all bring different things to it. And it was different takes on the character. The one thing that I noticed in the trailers and in Corn Sweat is that reminded me a lot of Chris Reeves was when you go back and look at Chris Reeves, when he went from Clark to Superman, he changed his posture. You know what I mean?
right.
He really made that transition. And I don't think Henry Cavill necessarily did that
No,
in the
he did. He
same
just kind of
way.
pivoted into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Corn Sweat did the kind of the same thing. At least I got that impression that his Clark is very much a physical transformation from an acting perspective.
Hmm.
So I kind of really laud that. I think there was definitely a lot of homage played to the 78 version from the
I,
music to some of the other choices, which is not a bad thing because that's a movie that, despite the fact that maybe it hasn't aged as well as it, something from that era will be, um, that we all hold that movie. Those of us who grew up in the era, we hold that in a special place in our hearts. I was 14 when that movie came out, so it was a little different for me than it was for you. I remember it distinctly,
mhm. Right.
but it was you. It was the first time you really could believe a man could fly, right?
Right. And that was
Uh,
the catchphrase. I mean, and it
sure.
worked.
And it made you believe that there could be superhero films because there really hadn't been anything good done with superheroes on the big screen like that, and that led to the Batman movies and so on. And I liken this to Batman in a lot of ways, in that Superman and Batman are probably the two most recognizable comic book characters to the non-comic book reading public, right?
Mhm.
And they've
Right.
also had multiple iterations done. Everybody has their favorite, and there are different things about those characters that people want to see. I loved the Michael Keaton Batman movies, but I also really didn't like them because of the fact that Batman had guns on the Batmobile and he killed people.
Right.
So there were things about it. There were things about the Chris Reeves Superman that I loved and adored. There were some things now as an adult that I watched that I'm like, the flying around
Well,
the earth, going backwards thing, and that kind of
right.
stuff.
And at the end of the day, those things are stuff that were fit for the time for the movie than when it came out, right?
Correct. Correct.
And then, but that being said, I haven't heard any fans like throw any shade at Superman 78, or Batman 89.
Right.
There are no fans that go against that
Right.
entire time.
I think we all hold it very reverentially, but we also realize it was a product of its time, and so you look
Right.
past those things, right? Uh, I think
Goofiness, the goofy comic
right,
bookness of it. Right.
right. Superman standing on the side of the
And
building with the guy crawling up the side of the building, and
right.
there's little things like that, but it's of the time.
Of the time. And there was a couple, I didn't read anything leading up to this because I don't like being tarnished, and
Yeah,
I could read something and still not be tarnished, but whether or not you know it or not, when you read something before you view it, you're going to take something internally from that writing
hmm
that you read, and it's going to inject your perception on how you see that film. So I wanted to go with a clean slate, but I did read a couple places afterwards where it says it's corny and comic booky but and kind of words like that. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, yeah, but that's what we're supposed to be. That's what we're supposed to have. It's not supposed to have a heavy tone like Man of Steel did. That was not
right,
comic book. It was just
right,
it was 300 with superheroes, and it was just and I mean, you can just so see the difference in the creators, right? I mean, Snyder and Gunn,
sure. I
you
think
couldn't have.
Snyder tried to embrace the mythology of it. You know what I mean? He went
Right.
down that avenue in a realistic take, and I enjoyed most of those movies, or at least parts of those movies.
Yeah,
I look at most superhero properties when I watch them, and I take away something I like out of it,
sure.
and I often take away things I don't like about it either. But I don't go into it trying to find a bad time, right? So embracing the bookiness of it, that's a refreshing take, right? Because we haven't really had the comic bookiness of things
Right.
in a while. It's not the Batman running around trying to get rid of a bomb and running up and trying to throw it into a pond and there's ducks there and then going into a parade of nuns or
Right.
anything like that.
It's not that far
It's
goofy,
not
right?
some days you can't get rid of a bomb goofy. It's embracing the bombasticness of those classic old comic books and bringing that to life, but not to the point at which it's, at least I'm assuming because I haven't seen it, but it's not crossing that line into parody, right?
Right. And I will say this, and this is not a spoiler because this was already seen on the internet before it. Gardner's scene in there where, well, throughout the whole thing, the constructs are great. I mean,
That's good.
Gardner's constructs are, I mean, they did them, they did them really well.
Hmm.
And the ones that Gardner used, he did really well and how they're done. Okay. So that being said, there was a scene where he's walking through that desert and he
Oh
throws
yeah,
up.
it was in the trailer, right?
Right, right. Well, of course, one of them was a hand swatting the tank away. And then, of course, the next one was a middle finger. I don't know if anybody's seen that yet or not, but
But it
that
was in the
scene goes
trailer.
on. Yeah, so that scene goes on for a while. I could not stop laughing. That was hilarious. Him just walking, holding up the ring. Here comes a construct swatting this tank away, and then here comes a middle finger, and then here comes another one that's like smacking this guy. And it's like, wow. And they really, really like delivered them really well, right? I mean, it wasn't like the constructs from the movie. I mean, those were okay,
Yeah,
but the way these were done were different,
right.
and it was really, really
You,
delivered.
you've got 14 years of evolution of CGI, so they should look
Right.
better, right?
It should look better.
uh,
No takeaways in a negative sense. The plot, there was something, there was a map at the end where, well, let's put it this way. The 1978 Superman was based on the premise that Luther was going to fire a rocket into the San Andreas Fault and form his own land, right? He bought all that land. So he was going to, the land was going to, it was going to fall off and then like he was going to go in and buy all this land. And then if you go to Superman Returns, Lex, of course, fires a rocket into the ocean because he wants to build land, right? I mean,
mhm. There's
it's
always a
almost
real estate scheme, right?
right. This one had that kind of note in it. It's not going to give away any of the plot or anything like that, but this one had that kind of note in it. I was like, that's interesting how they can't seem to get away from that trope with Luthor, but at the same time, it had to work for what they were doing in this film. And I'll say that because you couldn't take it away from it and have the same development of the movie over the course of 2 hours.
Right, right.
But
Now,
no no negative takeaways.
without giving away anything, were there any Easter eggs, Green Lantern related that we could be looking for or anything like that?
No GL
Nothing.
stuff. No GL stuff. I don't know if this, I mean, is it a spoiler to say there's a cameo? But it's not GL. I'll say that. But there is a cameo in it. I guess I shouldn't say that. I'll wait till it's comes on the 11th. I'll let people have their fun.
But people
There
should
is
be
a
paying
cameo.
attention to things, right?
Right. There is a cameo in it, and it's gonna be cool with what they're gonna be doing with that. And I'll put it that way. So you can't miss it. It's great. And then, like I said, stay for the credits because those are important. You know,
Now, I think some of the concerns I heard expressed were the number of characters in it. Do they without again without getting into any details, does it seem natural?
yeah, it's a progress. Well, because it starts off that metahumans already existed, right? And it does a sequence at the beginning where it gives you kind of a time frame of what's been
Okay.
happening,
Hmm.
and it kind of lays it out. When you first come across the Justice Gang or whatnot, now the whole of Justice is in there. It's not a spoiler, but I think it was shown in the trailer anyway. It is in there, and it kind of looks like it kind of looks like it's in its infancy, and they're still building it, and they're still building like a team. There was no talk of any Justice League or anything because they were always talking about Justice Gang or, and that's not her name. They kind of joked about that throughout the whole entire movie, but um, it wasn't convoluted with the characters. And the reason why that those Justice Gang characters were in there fits for what Superman had to go through in the movie.
Okay. So it's
And
not forced content. It's
It didn't
organic to
feel
the
forced at
story.
all. I mean, it felt kind of natural. Like these guys were all already there. They kind of knew each other. It kind of felt like they actually already knew each other existed. You
Gotcha.
know, even when Superman and Guy were talking, they were just, it was an interesting seeing those two together because it's like, man, I want to see Hal and Superman talking, not Superman and Guy.
Well, it'll never happen.
I know. But no, there isn't a bad thing I'd say about that movie. I mean,
Good.
everything was good. I mean, the special effects CGI were great. Um, let's see what else. Lois Lane. I mean, I liked her 10 times better. Rachel Bosnanen, or I think her name is. I liked her way better than the girl who played her in the Man of Steel. I didn't connect with that Lois. I'm more connected with Margot Kidder, when she had it, or for
Amy
that
Adams.
matter,
Yeah.
Amy Adams. Yeah, Amy. I didn't like Amy Adams. I didn't think she did a good job as Lois. I didn't think she fit her profile or her personality at all. This one reminds me a little bit of Margot Kidder, but she also reminds me a little bit of Elizabeth Tulloch, who plays her on Superman and Lois, the series that just ended. Yeah,
Gotcha.
so
Well, there you have
see
it.
it,
It's
man.
got the Phil Bova seal of approval.
It was going to have that anyway. It's Superman.
I'm cautiously optimistic about going to see it based on what you're saying. It doesn't change my opinion about lanterns in any way, shape, or form, but
I honestly think you're going to enjoy that part of it. I mean, that was one of the most enjoyable parts because we're Lantern fans, right? You can't wait to see Guy Gardner because it's like Guy Gardner. And I was telling my wife, I was like, I can't wait for a time, and I hope this happens, where you see Guy Gardner and Lobo on the screen at the same time because those two together in anything is going to be dynamic and funny because Nathan Fillion and Jason Momoa, I think they're going to bring something to those characters that's going to be good. And of course, my wife, who's Lobo? I said
oh
that, and I told her, I was like, honestly, I don't think anybody's out there is going to be ready for what Lobo is just yet. I mean, everybody's gotten so used to Deadpool, and Lobo is a lot like that, but he's entirely different, you
yeah,
know. But anyway,
cool.
good stuff, man. Good stuff.
All right, well, let's take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll talk Green Lantern 23 and 24.
Do it.
In brightest day or blackest night, there's only one place to listen to the best in Green Lantern. That's the podcast of OA.
All right, Green Lantern fans, welcome back. We're going to start off talking about Green Lantern 23 with both these issues have reunions of sorts in them. And this has Hal reuniting with the Spectre. And I thought it was really fascinating. I mean, Hal goes to Hell, obviously. And, it was funny when we were talking the last time we talked about the Green Lantern series before our GL June episode. We were talking about Zoriel and Phantom Stranger potentially being a an odd team up for Hal, but really, I went back and as a result of this issue, I went back and looked through all 27 issues of the Spectre run, and both the Phantom Stranger and Zoriel showed up.
I knew you were going to do that, and I thought about, did you do the Day of Judgment?
Yes, yep. Hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you about that because that guy that's in that cell, was he? I guess he was in that particular book.
I did not see him anywhere. I looked. You're talking about Ada?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ada. I did not find anywhere.
Well, that doesn't make any sense because it had a note to it in there, didn't it?
No, it didn't. It never mentioned where Ada came from. That was why I went back and looked through all the books trying to find out where this reference was. They have a note referencing Hal's time as the Spectre, but they don't have any editor's notes for Ada. And so I went looking to see what I could find out, and I couldn't find anything. And I also went and searched on Google just in case maybe I missed something. Not a thing, because there were some appearances of the Spectre when Hal was the Spectre that I didn't have access to over the last few days as I was researching this episode. I didn't find any reference to it at all.
Okay, so yeah, there's the one that says Hal joined with the Spectre and Day of Judgment.
Yeah, yeah, back when he first merged.
So that's all it was just a
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, no, when I saw Adia, because I'm like, okay, there's obviously history between Hal's the Spectre and Adia. I was like, well, where did they take place? I don't remember this character at all. And so I went back and dug out my back issues and went through all 27 issues looking. And I also went through a couple of issues that there was a Secret Origins and a couple other books that Hal was in there. I didn't go back and look at Soul War and those kind of things. So if there's entirely a chance that Adia appeared somewhere, I just don't have reference to it right now. But if anybody out there recognizes Adia from anywhere, let me know.
Well,
I
not
didn't
only
even
that,
find
the
it.
necklace. That because I was curious.
Yeah.
Well, they're putting a lot of focus on this, him going to hell and getting this necklace from this character. There has to be some significance to it. But when did we learn why it was significant and where it came from?
Well, that was just the thing. I was like, okay, Jeremy Adams obviously looked at the Spectre series because of the Phantom Stranger and Zoriel stuff. Where's the connection to Adia? I think, and I may be mispronouncing the name. So I was looking for that, and I could find nothing. I searched the interwebs, went back and looked at my back issues because some of the stuff during that time period, especially the Spectre series, there's not a lot of notes and material out there about it. So I went back and looked through all the issues and not an appearance. But interesting character. I kind of think that Jeremy Adams created the character in this history because he's going to play off it later. So
Okay.
it's
Well,
I don't want
fair.
to say it's a retcon because it's not. Just because these characters have history doesn't mean we saw that history. We read about it.
Right. Right.
I don't have a problem with that at all. And it was interesting the foreshadowing of the use of the word disgusting because of what we see happen. And I really liked, I think in the past I kind of criticized the cutting back and forth between Kyle Rayner and Superboy and Odyssey and Silver Scarab's adventures on the Interceptor in this because it didn't seem like a natural flow. These two issues, it felt much more natural to me. So it might just be a me thing. But I enjoyed it. I still wish they'd get the Interceptor right. If you're going to do it, make it look right and have it face the right direction. Pet peeve, I know, but it's right up there with the white boots and missing power ring or
So,
power ring in the
side
right
note,
hand.
do you think they're gonna explain why the Spectre was reacting the way he was, or do you think it has to do with the emotional spectrum being out of key?
I have not been keeping up with what's going on with the Spectre at all, so
Well,
I'm
it
not
wouldn't
sure.
be that. It says, I mean, even Hal says, I don't know what's going on with you, but I know the rules. You can't hurt me unless I deserve it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right,
So
because
it's almost like the Spectre just, you know, went after him unprovoked.
I'm wondering if it's because he doesn't have a host right now, because that was part of what went on during Day of Judgment was
Oh, okay.
Spectre was acting a little out of character because he didn't have a human host to kind of temper God's wrath. And you see what happens here is the Spectre's trying to claim Hal as his own all over again, and Hal's having
Yeah,
none of it.
you're
Uh,
right.
and you cut that back and forth with what's going on with Kyle and stuff. And it's interesting because tonally, these two these two half stories are different. The Hal part is definitely heavier than the Kyle Rayner part. The Kyle Rayner part is all action adventure. So I think it's great because it really makes the issue more balanced.
Hmm.
So I really liked it from that perspective. Seeing Nort is always fun. And they use Nort to the he's not so much the punchline. He's still comic relief, but he's not a punchline. You know what I mean?
Did you get that Nort? Because didn't he allude to the fact of how he ended up there? Was that in a prior issue?
He referred to it, but they haven't gone into any great detail. But uh,
I didn't think it would be in anything.
yeah,
So,
but
all right.
it was neat, and it was neat to cut back and see. It reminded me a little bit of Empire Strikes Back when the Millennium Falcon is flying out of that asteroid and the mouth comes up
Yeah.
after it. I kind of got those vibes from it, and that's not a bad thing at all. But that was cool. Seeing Hal have the conversation with the Spectre and the Spectre trying to reclaim him and Hal's recollection of that time because we kind of wondered since Hal came back in Green Lantern Rebirth, how much of that did he remember? And clearly he's kind of repressed that because he talks about the weight being too much for him to deal with.
Hmm.
But I did love the fact that he goes toe to toe with the Spectre, because we saw in the Morrison run, we saw him trying to arrest a godlike character.
Right.
So it doesn't surprise me that he's trying to go toe to toe with the Spectre here, and he understands the rules well enough to know that the Spectre can't make him do squat. Which I again thought was great. I thought Adams did a really good job of reflecting back on that, and I really think it's the first time since Green Lantern Rebirth we've seen the Spectre really have an interaction with Hal. So I thought that was really cool. And they get out with the necklace, and we don't really understand the importance of the necklace at this point. It almost seems a little,
Arbitrary.
yeah, a little arbitrary, a little, hey, I need to have something for this story to take place.
A
But I
plot device.
think, yeah, it's created for what he needs. But I think because of what we see at the end of this issue with them coming with the Starbreaker coming to Aedia and empowering Aedia with the emotional spectrum, and we get disgust out of it. I think that's the buildup. I think the whole point of this thing was we know Aedia wasn't something we've seen on the page, at least we believe we're 90% sure. But Jeremy Adams giving history between Aedia and Hal gives weight for later on when there's the inevitable meetup down the road.
So now we got disgust and sorrow,
Yes, we have
right?
disgust and sorrow.
Starbreaker, man, the Starbreaker core is really going on.
It's
What would
it's
imagine what the next
it's
one would
getting there.
be? Think about the next one. I mean, can you
Yeah, I don't know. I don't who
discuss
knows what's
sorrow?
next.
What emotion? I mean, constipated? Would there be one of those? I guess that'd be your
Yeah,
brown
yeah, yeah,
lantern
yeah.
core, right?
Very Brown Lantern Corps, right, right. But this was I thought was a fun issue. You had the hectic pace and frenetic action of what's going on outside of the Reach outpost in the Omega sector and stuff. You had that going on. Plus, you had the heaviness of Hal's adventure in Hell coming to a conclusion, and then the Starbreaker even adding more to it. So I thought really I don't want to say dense issue, but there's a lot going on. And it
Mm.
was all good stuff. I thought it was great. And it was great to see Zermanik go back on the art chores.
I like seeing the Spectre back. I like the
Yeah.
Phantom Stranger. He's always been one of my favorites too.
Yeah.
So
And I appreciate the fact that Adams went back and looked at that series. And then, pardon, my wife is going outside and triggering my Alexa in the office here. Seeing Jeremy Adams kind of mine some of that history a little bit and doing his homework, because for longtime readers, that's a big thing. For readers who maybe weren't reading the Spectre series or only jumped on during the Johns run and read Green Lantern Rebirth and knew that the Spectre was a part of it, this added a layer for those people as well as being a payoff for us long-term readers. So I really enjoyed it. That leads us into Green Lantern 24. Another knockout issue. This one,
exciting.
Someone was detected at your front door.
pardon me.
Oh, there's someone detected at the door. It might be the Starbreaker. Watch out.
Yeah, yeah, right. This one I really enjoyed as it opened up seeing the Hal and Carol banter and seeing how Jeremy Adams is playing their relationship with each other. It's interesting. It's got the energy of a young couple, but it also has the years of history between them layering in.
Yeah, they kind of seem used to each other. Just the
Yeah,
way
yeah.
they talk, it kind of just seems like, well, I get you, I get you. So they've always meshed well. I mean, they've gotten along when they've gotten along.
Sure, sure. And we've talked about it before. The relationship cycle is very much a sine wave.
Pretty
And hopefully, let's enjoy it while it lasts. Who knows how long it lasts. I enjoyed seeing the two of them tag team up against these criminals and Hal kind of, I don't want to say ribbing her about the cars, but having good natured relationship banter. My wife and I have those kind of interactions all the time where there are common threads that we pluck at on a regular basis. And it was fun to see that there. And I loved how Jeremy Adams weaved in some humor where the criminals that are in the little cell are sickened by the cutesiness of the couple and playing off their history and kudos to him about talking about the history of Hal and Carol, because that's part of what I know for me as a reader, a long time reader, it kind of bothered me a little bit in that Carol has been so hypocritical because she's going off and doing all these things, all the things that she used to give Hal crap over without the self-reflection that she's enjoying it and she's seeing the value in it. And um, these are all the things that she would criticize Hal for and would break up the relationships in the past. And you didn't see that recognition of, I get it now. I
Right.
understand it. And here we get that. And I was so appreciative of seeing that part of it. And I loved how he played it in a very natural and good-natured manner.
Yep.
And then we jump back to the interceptor, and something's going on with the interceptor. It's kind of gone into autopilot mode. Nobody knows really what's going on. But we do get a piece of vital information about Kyle, and that Kyle still has the ability to use the White Lantern power, but because of everything going on with the fractured spectrum, he's not really tapping into it. He's using his willpower to control it, and he's leaning into the green more than anything else, which I think helps set up what could happen with him down the road, right? Because
Right.
there's a whole section of fandom who wants to see Cal be a White Lantern as his ongoing thing, is making him something unique again. And we had at one point we had a whole little mini White Lantern Corps started, so I could see him going back to that at some point. Maybe he spin off into his own book. I think that'd be good for the character, and I think his fans would really like that. But I enjoyed seeing the interactions here, and again, the dynamic of Connell kind of busting his chops a little bit about, is it Connell? Am I getting it wrong, or is it Connor? I get them confused.
I think that's Connell because it's Kon when he calls
Yeah,
him Con.
yeah.
Right.
I
And
love the
also, they kind of feel like brothers. You know what I mean? Like,
right. They've got that brotherly relationship going on, and the fact that I could take you and you could take me, the kind of thing. And Odyssey's kind of the girl caught in the middle. I love the design of the space station that they find. I
yeah,
thought
that
that
was
was
cool.
that was really cool, and it
Did you know what
flies
was
in.
gonna happen? Did you know what was gonna happen at the end of this when you saw that?
I
I
don't want
didn't
to
know.
say I know, but I knew it was coming.
Right. I mean, that's kind of how I was. I didn't pick up on the fact that this was gonna be it because I was kind of like, well, that's
I
weird. What's
kind of
out here?
when I saw the station and I saw the Green Lantern logo on it, I'm like, okay, this could. I did. I don't want to say I was surprised when I got to the end of this issue, and we'll get to that when we get to the end of the issue. But it didn't surprise me because I saw the space station with the Green Lantern logo, and I'm like, okay, Adams is a writer. It's on autopilot going to a Green Lantern start space station of some sort. Given the history of the character involved, it was. I don't want to say it was telegraphed, but it wasn't hard to think that was what was going to happen. I guess that's the best way
And
to
it
put
was
it.
a well executed task too, right? Because it's been a few issues that they've been going in this interceptor, looking for
Right,
whatever they're looking for, and then
right.
all of a sudden now they got the autopilot taking them to what they're looking for, and it's like,
Especially once the arrows started showing up, because in the Green Lantern animated series, there was an episode where they go to, was it Ranks? No, was it Ranks? It might have been, I can't remember. It might have been Ranks. And they get there, and there are these symbols pointing them in the right direction and clues to pull Hal and Tomar Ray to find the head of the Anti-Monitor.
gotcha.
So I'm like, okay, this is very reminiscent. It's leaning into it pretty heavy. Uh, so I'm not surprised. Cutting back to the Hal and Carol adventures, going to the Sunnyside prison camp and what unfolds there. It was humorous. Again, I liked the banter between the two. They were going to go to dinner in Shanghai, and she wants to investigate this prison camp because of something she learned from Batman. And Hal's line about, well, that's because Batman has no life and I do, including lunch with you in Shanghai. I loved it. Again, I, Jeremy Adams getting the character work done very well.
Well,
I think he's done such a great job there.
even when they hit up the salad bar and it says, I could have told you that when we saw the salad bar, no one has that many bacon bits at a salad bar. It's not economical.
Yeah, I had to laugh. It was funny. And then they find out what's going on there and the creepiness of it all. And the axolotl. When we talk to Jeremy Adams, I want to try to get him on for another interview before maybe before I go to Terrificon and get a chance to meet him. I want to ask him why an axolotl. Is there a story behind the axolotl being his choice? of all
Well,
the things.
would this be the next emotional happy? Would be the next one that's gone awry?
Yeah, yeah, but I just thought it was interesting.
Yes,
What was his choice for the
an
axolotl?
axolotl. Yeah, it
Interesting to
is kind of a,
me.
it is kind of a, yeah, you're right. I mean, I was going to say the same thing, but now that you mention it, it's like, what is the point of having a little axolotl
Why
running
not a
around?
dog? Dogs are always happy, Um, why an axolotl of all things? So there's got to be a story there. There's got to be a story. Uh, and then going back to deep space as we're cutting back and forth, we're seeing the Manhunter show up. When the Manhunter showed up, I was like, okay, this is happening.
It's cool. And that's
It
a
was
cool
happening.
shot too of Kyle standing there with him in the background. I like that.
Yeah, yeah, I liked it. Again, Zermanico really nailing the artwork in this in both these issues, and seeing the origin of how Axolotl channeled the emotional spectrum, I thought was very interesting, and the callback to way back in the first issue of the series with Steel Fury and having that Manhunter armor. Again, great callback. Uh, again, as a reader, I like seeing those kind of things happen, that sense of continuity, and not continuity in the way we normally talk about it, but just in the fact that some things are not throwaway. They come back into play for different reasons. And I thought that
Right.
was really cool. Liked how once they start to confront them and want to take the axolotl away, they all change to orange.
Hmm.
Thought that was cool. Just
Still no Larfleeze, so
no Larfleeze. And I thought it was interesting, and I haven't quite figured it out, but why the axolotl's interactions with Carol kind of diffuse the situation. I'm not sure what kind of clues to pick up from that other than love and happiness are kind of interconnected emotionally. And is that what it
that was
is?
kind of what I took from it when she said it was a youth. Didn't she say something about it being euphoric?
Yes, that they were feeling a sense of
Right.
euphoria being around the axolotl.
I would imagine that could be what it was. That's why the little Happy, or I think the thing's called Happy, attaches
That's
to
kind of
her.
what they named him or her. Um, it reminded me of Itty. Do you remember Itty?
Mm-mm.
Hal had this little creature, alien creature named Itty that kind of was hanging out with him for a while. And I just got Itty vibes from Happy. But regardless, we've got the fight with Kyle and Khan and Odyssey and Silver Scarab versus the Manhunters. And then you see that energy leave. And once the energy is like, okay, now I'm 150 million% positive what's going to happen. And we see the return of Aya. And
I actually have two questions about that.
yeah,
Because Kyle's reaction to it is no way, right?
well, yeah, how does
I'm a
Kyle even know who she is, right?
well, and I took that as a okay, well, maybe he's like, no way, what is this? I wouldn't assume that it's no way. How can this be, right?
Right.
Because they don't know who each other is.
I would assume
Now,
we don't know what comic book continuity is with regards
right,
to this. Because I didn't really exist on the printed page per se in real continuity to know that they're whether they've met before or not. I'd like to think that they hadn't, and that Kyle's just like, oh wow, no way, that kind of a reaction versus a oh no way, it's Aya. I
right.
think it plays better if it's the first way, like you said, that it's Aya. I think the only thing, okay, I
Like it.
love
I
Green
like it.
Lantern.
I think it's cool.
I love Green Lantern animated series. To me, it's as far as I'm concerned, the best adaptation of Green Lantern outside of the comic books. But the only downside is Adams is making the assumption that everybody has watched Green Lantern the animated series. Like the Interceptor is one thing because it showed up in the comics before, and it's not that much of a thing. Oh, they got a ship, and it's called the Interceptor. You don't have to have had that connection. For this panel, and again, spoilers if you haven't read the issue, but geez, it's been a few weeks. Uh, if you don't know who Aya is, this doesn't carry the emotional weight it does for people who love that show as much as I do. And
But
uh,
on that note, if you don't know who I is, go watch the show.
yeah, if you haven't watched the Green Lantern the animated series,
Right.
shame on you. Um,
Right. And that too.
um, but it's funny because I feel somewhat hypocritical because I don't like seeing John and Hawkgirl like they were in the Justice League animated series. I didn't like that
Yeah, I got news
relationship
for you.
then.
You better get used to that
Oh,
because
I'm
there's
sure.
already rumors going around
I
about
know. Yeah.
that the actor from that series and her coming into contact.
Yeah, I'm sure. Uh, but I already, I didn't like that relationship in the first place. I don't like seeing it in the comics. So for me, it's hypocritical to say, "Oh, I love seeing Razor and Aya here," because it's the
Mm.
same thing. It's just a different show. Uh, I appreciate it, but I don't think readers should have to have had watched the show to get this. Just like I don't think that everybody who's going to see these movies knows that Jon Stewart and Hawker were a thing. Uh,
Well, and also I think that Razor played a significant part in the animated,
oh yeah,
and he's playing like a limited role here in what he's being written in this book. If they're going to take these characters, then do something with them and make them have some kind of purpose, right?
right,
If
right.
they go forward and Aya doesn't do crap, or they just let it whatever it is and just kind of float,
If they faded in the background like every other Green Lantern character who
right?
isn't from Earth, then it's going to be
It's not
severely
going to be good.
disappointing.
Yeah,
At the
that
same
won't be
time,
cool.
I don't want them dominating the books either because it's not really about them. So
Right.
I'm of two minds. I recognize for me this is the same nostalgia that people who like the John Stewart Hawkgirl thing feel seeing it in the comics. But at the same time, I'm like, well, but I I I love Reese cups, but I also like chocolate and peanut butter separate, and I'm okay with it being separate. I appreciate you trying to bring it together and give us some closure that we didn't get because Warner Brothers is stupid and didn't do a follow-up movie. I mean, they could have done a direct-to-video. It would have been better than anything they did in the Tomorrowverse. That's for damn sure.
Right.
I would have liked to have seen something taken care of in that way, even if it was 2D animation. That would have been fine. And they tried to do a little bit in Young Justice. I'm of two minds. Again, I don't want this to become the focus of the book. And I think
I
there
don't
are
think it will.
already significant problems in the Green Lantern Corps book in balancing all those characters. And now you're going to add this to it. I don't know. I don't know what to think because I don't know what Adams is going to do. So I'm happy
I
in
would
one
imagine that
respect, but I'm not too thrilled in another.
I would imagine that these two books are going to intersect, so it's going to
Oh,
align the core a little bit better.
we know that there's already little notes back and forth. Green Lantern Corps issue 6 just came out today. We're recording this on Wednesday the 9th.
Right, I haven't read
And
it yet. I got it, but I haven't read it yet.
they're making connections back and forth because Jeremy Adams is co-writing the other book and writing this book. So there's more connections and there's this big Starbreaker, what do they call it? The Starbreaker. Oh, let me get this issue. Hold on just a second.
Alliance forward.
They are calling it the Starbreaker. Is it Supremacy? Yeah.
That was in 24, right?
No, this is what's coming up next.
Starbreaker Supremacy.
The Starbreaker
Yeah, Starbreaker
Supremacy.
Supremacy.
And it's a crossover between the two books. So it makes sense. We're gonna get they're gonna have to meet each other. I mean, there's no way Jeremy Adams has brought back these two characters and not had them interact in some way. And maybe they'll get their conclusion and they'll go off together and do something. And it's just a way to bring those together and tie those loose threads up. Certainly could be. Do I want to see them used in the ongoing basis? No, there's so many characters already. Uh, I you're going to get ticked off when you read this new issue, I think, of Green Lantern Corps, because what a missed opportunity for something else to happen. Not going to say anything
Well,
though.
I, I, I have a sneaky suspicion. I'm flipping through number 6 core now, and I have a sneaky suspicion you're not gonna like it.
Oh, I've already read it. I've already read it. Yeah, I
Oh,
don't
you
like it.
have read it.
Yeah, I read it
Okay.
today. I read it
I
today.
I didn't read it yet. I mean, I'm just kind of flipping through it. I was kind of concerned about why these two are showing up, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Well, to me, this was another throwaway issue.
Okay.
Um,
At least Mogo is here.
yeah, and Mogo's on the cover, and things happen with Mogo, but
All right.
but
These are
anyway,
these have been solid issues, 23 or
yeah,
24.
these
Fine.
issues have been solid.
So here we are, like almost 2 years into his run.
Yeah, yeah. And issue 25 is going to be a double-sized issue or an extra, a bonus-sized issue.
Cool.
Because at the end of Green Lantern Corps 6, it talks about it being to kick off the Starbreaker Supremacy, Green Lantern 25. And at the end of issue 24, I think it even says there it's an extra
I think they
size.
should talk about the return of Sodom Yacht.
Oversized 25th issue.
I would be okay with the return of Sodom Yacht. That'd be kind of cool. I don't think it's going to happen.
I,
Solid issues though, man. I
yeah,
like what, I will say this though. I mean, even though like not every single issue that he's made has been a banger, I don't think you can be a writer and have every single issue be a banger.
no. And even those that haven't been that good are still been good. They've still been enjoyable.
Right. And that's
Uh,
what I was going to lead into. It's like
yeah,
it's his series is still doing well.
yeah,
And what he's leading up to is working well. So, I like it. We're spoiled. I mean, we got a lot of books. We haven't done
yeah.
anything with Absolute Lantern yet, have
No,
we?
I think the next episode we should do Green Lantern Corps, get caught up on that, and then we should do a absolute Green Lantern.
Because
Maybe by then we'll have a
four,
fifth issue and something will actually happen. Um,
they're on four of that, right? I think
issue four
four
of
came.
that. But yeah, I mean, spoiler, I find the pacing to be ridiculously slow. 4 issues in, after buying 4 issues, I don't feel like I know much more than what I knew when I read the first issue.
You're talking about the
Absolute.
Absolute. Okay. I haven't read it. I read the first issue, but I haven't, that's all I read.
I think it will read better
Collected.
in collected and in trade because the
Yeah.
pacing is abysmally slow from my perspective. Abysmally slow.
Okay. Gotcha. Hey, boy, just got Godzilla and Kong, the second part's out. You
Yeah,
knew
yeah.
that, right?
Yep. Yeah, I've got the second issue. I read the first issue. Um, Not enjoying it as much as the first one, but again, maybe it's only the second issue. We'll see where it goes.
Cool.
All right. Well, friends, we will be back in a couple weeks. I promise, unless I fall and break another body part. Uh, and we'll be talking Green
I
Lantern
hope
Corps.
not.
I hope not,
I
man.
put my,
I've had about enough of this year as I can take right now. I tell you.
even my wife said something about it. She's like, that poor guy, he's just not having good luck. He's
It's
not.
itself. I was in San Antonio, Texas last week for an educational conference for about a week, and I still had scabs all over from where I'm healing, and I ended up ripping the scab off my arm trying to put my backpack on, and I ended up getting blisters on
Uh,
my feet because I walked about 10 miles a day. It was just absolutely huge. It was the largest technology and education conference in the country, partnered up with the second largest technology and education conference, and they've joined hands together. I want to say they said there was 16,000 people, 16,000
oh
educators
my,
from around the world were at this conference. It was absolutely crazy. But
that's cool though. Lucky you, man. At least you get to go to that.
I got 2 post-retirement job offers while I was
Cool.
there. But we should be back
Hey,
soon.
that's a plus.
It is. It is. I gotta have something to keep me out of trouble. Uh, so
That's true.
it might not keep me out of trouble. One of the jobs is one of the drone soccer organizations wants to hire me to fly around the country and promote drone soccer, which I could totally get into that.
You can do
I
that. You can come to my school.
I was saying, I was thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, well, we need to go to St. Louis. We could pull people in from St. Louis. I need to fly to St. Louis and talk to some people.
Mhm. There you go.
Time it with the big horror. There's a big horror Halloween convention in St. Louis every year, and so I got to time it right so I can get like a three for out of it,
That would be awesome.
But anyway, until next time, keep that power ring charged, take care of each other, look up, and make every day your brightest day. Thanks so much for watching this Green Lantern video from the blog of VOA. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find even more great Green Lantern videos, reviews, podcasts, and more at our main website, www.blogofoa.com. So until next time, keep your power ring charged and make every day your brightest day.